Good day, everyone. The topic that we will be discussing is the facility location. First, what is facility location? It is the process of determining geographic sites for a firm's operations, which could include a manufacturing plant, a distribution center, and a customer service center. Facility location means choosing the right site for the firm's manufacturing plant, distribution center, and a customer service center. Manufacturing plant or the actual site where raw materials are converted into a goods, a distribution center or the warehouse, or the stocking point where the finished goods were located and subsequently distributed to wholesalers, retailers, manufacturers, and customers. And a customer service center is a place that handles customer relationships. Location choices can be critically important for firms and have a profound impact on its supply chains. For example, they can affect the supplier relationship process because location choices is somehow related to supplying goods. Because if I were the supplier, I prefer that company that where I supply goods is closer to me so that the transportation will be easier and more convenient for me. And if a particular business manufactures goods, those manufactured goods will also be supplied to another manufacturers, which if the location choice is near that company that receives our goods, it is more beneficial for the company. Recognizing the strategic impact location decisions have on implementing a firm's strategy and supply chain design, it is important to consider first the qualitative factors that influence location choices and their implications across the organization. It is important to consider those qualitative factors such as geographical factors, environmental factors, and some other factors that greatly affect the business activity. Subsequently, examining the important trend in location patterns uses geographical information systems to identify market segments and how serving each segment can profitably affect the firm's location decisions. How did location decisions affect processes and departments throughout the organization? First, relocating all or part of an organization can significantly affect the attitudes of the firm's workforce and the organization's ability to operate effectively across departmental lines. It is similar with what a particular student felt when he or she graduated in high school and he is going to transfer into other school for his college. Because he is unfamiliar with the environment, he or she cannot be more efficient and more productive enough as to compare to what he did in the previous years. Location also has implications for a firm's human resources department, which must be attuned to the firm's hiring and training needs. Location choices also has effect on the human resources department because during the hiring, if the applicant knows that the location where he or she will be assigned is so far away and it is inconvenient for he or she to work there, there is a huge possibility that he would no longer apply for that job. And on the training needs of the business, it will be hard for them to train the employees which may come from far distances and the training center is far away from them. And locating new facilities or relocating existing facilities is usually costly. That's why it is a decision that is important for the business to make or to locate the facilities. Because locating the facilities is not about changing the location. It's about building new facilities, acquiring some other equipments, and usually acquiring a lot. Therefore, these decisions must be carefully evaluated by the organization's accounting and finance departments.
Factors affecting location decisions. Managers of both service and manufacturing organizations must weigh many factors when assessing the desirability of particular locations, including their proximity to customers and suppliers, labor cost, and transportation cost. Factors determining location decisions for new manufacturing plants can be broadly classified as under: first, favorable labor climate. A favorable labor climate may well be the most important factor for labor-intensive firms in industries such as textiles, furniture, and consumer electronics. Labor climate is a function of wage rates, training requirements, attitudes toward work, worker productivity, and union strength. Second, proximity to markets. After determining where the demand for services and goods is greatest, management must select a location for the facility that will supply that demand. Locating near markets is particularly important when the final goods are bulky or heavy, and outbound transportation rates are high. Third, the impact on environment. As the focus on sustainability has increased, firms are looking to recognize the impact of the location decisions on the environment, along with minimizing the carbon footprint of the new facility and its accompanying facilities in the supply chain. Consideration must also be given to reducing overall energy costs. Fourth, quality of life. Good schools, recreational facilities, cultural events, and an attractive lifestyle contribute to quality of life. In US, Japan, and Europe, more than 50% of new industrial jobs went to non-urban regions during the past 2 decades. The reason for movement includes high cost of living, high crime rates, and general decline in the quality of life in many large cities. This is one example of quality of life.
The fifth dominant factors in manufacturing is the proximity to suppliers and resources. Firms dependent on inputs of bulky, perishable, or heavy raw materials emphasize proximity to their suppliers and resources. It is because continuous and quality supply of raw materials is another critical factor in determining the location of manufacturing facility. In such cases, inbound transportation costs become also a dominant factor, encouraging such firms to locate facilities near suppliers. But first of all, what is inbound transportation costs? These are also called as inbound logistic charges, which is the fees related to the delivery of goods into a business, which are often overlooked. And why is it so? It is because, unfortunately, when product is shipped, the inbound transportation cost can be buried in a supplier invoice combined with the cost of goods sold purchased. Moreover, as the closer you are to your suppliers, the quicker your product can be on the market or available in the market. And in the same manner, a business near their suppliers will better know their suppliers and have a good relationship with them, which is also an important factor to have a supply chain that is more efficient, cost effective, and productive that will help you gain a better value for your business. So the next factor or dominant factor in manufacturing businesses is proximity to the parent company's facilities. In many companies, plants supply parts to other facilities or rely on the other facilities for management and staff support. These ties require frequent communication and coordination, which can be more difficult as distance increases. It is just like your biological parents. The parent company has a lot of control and has a lot of influence over its subsidiary company. That is why communication and coordination is very important, as you have to communicate well whenever problems arises and when you have something to consult to your parent company. Next, utilities, taxes, and real estate costs. Other location decision factors include utility costs, such as telephone cost, energy cost, and water costs, local and state taxes, financing incentives offered by local or state governments, relocation costs, and land costs. Next is the other factors or the secondary factors that are need to be considered as well. These factors includes room for expansion, as every business is for expanding their business, so you really have to look for a conducive place that will easily attract huge number of customers. At the same time, the construction costs, accessibility to multiple modes of transportation. As we all know, our customers would love to commit to a business that can easily transport or ship the goods that they ordered or the goods that they avail. Next is the cost of shuffling people and materials between plants, insurance costs, competition from other firms for the workforce, as mentioned earlier, local ordinances such as pollution or noise control regulation. These are very important as we really have to abide with the law. And at the same time, we have this environmental policy. In current globalized world, pollution control is very important. Therefore, understanding of environmental policy for the facility location is another critical factor. We have to be aware with the different regulations as ignorance of the law exempts no one. And next is the community attitudes and many others. The overall objective of an organization is to satisfy and delight customers with its products and services. Therefore, for an organization, it becomes important to have a strategy formulated around its manufacturing unit. A manufacturing unit is the place where all inputs, such as raw materials, equipment, skilled laborers, etc., come together and manufacture products for customers. One of the most critical factors determining the success of the manufacturing unit is the location.
Next, we have dominant factors in services. The factors mentioned for manufacturers also apply to service providers with one important addition: the impact of location on sales and customer satisfaction. Customers usually care about how close a service facility is, particularly if the process requires considerable customer contact. So here are the four dominant factors in services. First, we have proximity to customers. Location is a key factor in determining how conveniently customers can carry on business with a firm. Being close to customers who match a firm's target market and service offerings is thus important for profitability. Proximity to customer is a key. Remember, it is a key. Moving in with them can be a great idea. Having development teams at client offices help you discover customer pains, context of use, stakeholders, underlying needs, and enterprise reality. In the long run, people that seek problems outperform the people that seek solutions. Okay, second, we have transportation costs and proximity to markets. For warehousing and distribution operations, transportation costs and proximity to markets are extremely important. With a warehouse nearby, many firms can hold inventory closer to the customer, thus reducing delivery time and promoting sales. Every company is expected to serve its customers by providing goods and services at the time needed and at reasonable price. Organizations may choose to locate facilities close to the market or away from the market depending upon the product. When the buyers for the product are concentrated, it is advisable to locate the facilities close to the market. Locating nearer to the market is preferred if the products are delicate and susceptible to spoilage. After sales services are promptly required very often. Transportation cost is high and increase the cost significantly. Shelf life of the product is low. Nearness to the market ensures a consistent supply of goods to customers and reduces the cost of transportation. Location of competitors. So this is the third one. One complication in estimating the sales potential at different locations is the impact of customers, or is the impact of competitors rather. Management must not only consider the current location of competitors, but also try to anticipate their reaction to the firm's new location. Avoiding areas where competitors are already well established often pays. However, in some industries, such as new car sales showrooms and fast food chains, locating near competitors is actually advantageous. Why? The strategy is to create a critical mass whereby several competing firms clustered in one location attract more customers than the total number who would shop at the same stores at scattered locations. Recognizing this effect, some firms use a follow the leader strategy when selecting new sites. Okay, for number 4, site-specific factors. Retailers also must consider the level of retail activity, residential density, traffic flow, and site visibility. Retail activity in the area is important because shoppers often decide on impulse to go shopping or to eat in a restaurant. Traffic flows and visibility are important because customers arrive in cars. Remember that. Management considers possible traffic tie-ups, traffic volume, and direction by time of day, traffic signals, intersections, and the position of traffic medians. Visibility involves distance from the street and the size of nearby buildings and signs. So, that is our 4 dominant factors in services.
Let's proceed to Geographical Information System. A geographical information system is a system of computer software, hardware, and data that a firm's personnel can use to manipulate, analyze, and present information relevant to a location decision. Our keyword here is geography. This means that some portion of the data is spatial. This means the data is in some way referenced to locations on the Earth. Basically, a geographical information system provides information about a particular location. It can help in capturing, storing, checking, and displaying data related to positions on Earth's surface. In addition, it can integrate different systems to create a visual representation of a firm's location choices. It shows different kinds of data on one map such as streets, buildings, and vegetation. And with this, people can more easily see, analyze, and understand spatial patterns, trends, and relationships. So it can substantially help the companies to locate the best site for their store, and they can also find prospective customers for their business. Furthermore, it can be used to store databases, display maps, and create models that can take information from existing datasets, apply analytic functions, and write results into newly derived datasets. So these three functionalities are the critical parts of an intelligent GIS, and they are used to varying extent in all GIS applications. So GIS stores information in several databases that can be naturally linked to places such as customer sales and locations, or a census tract, or the percentage of residents in a tract that make a certain amount of money a year. We can also know the demographics of an area, including the number of people in that area or city, or even the zip codes and average income, number of families with children, and so forth. And these demographics may all be important variables in the decision of how best to reach the target market. For example, they can choose their target market for women only, or men, or both, or those people who have high income. Similarly, the road system, including bridges and highways, locations of nearby airport and seaport, and the terrain, play an important role in facility location decision. This is because, like what I said earlier, that a firm can find the best location for their site or business if they use GIS. Companies can take advantage of the GIS so that may be able to choose a strategic market location that has not yet been saturated by other competitors in the particular niche industry, or we can able to locate areas that are bound to suffer from catastrophes with regards to the infrastructure that is in place there. In addition, they can also find prospective customers or safe warehouses. For example, a telecommunications provider might use GIS technology to inform site selection decisions and map out cell tower placement. On the other hand, a retail outlet might use GIS data to analyze product placement, across its brick and mortar stores, repositioning certain products based on regional interest or to improve efficiency in its supply chain. Next is, because you don't fully understand your data until you see how it relates to other things in a geographic context. So, in other words, we should not only understand the internal environment, but also the external environment. We should first understand the geographic context so that we can make better decisions in choosing the best location for our business.
Steps in selecting new facility location. First, we have developed a detailed list of selection area. The first step in selecting a new site is to develop an exhaustive list of selection criteria. The list should capture the most important qualification for the new site. There are some questions needed to answer this. How close are the company's customers? Where is the nearest port? How much land is needed? What is the workforce like? And what are the minimum electricity needs for the new plant? The criteria will address this and many other questions, and will vary tremendously from project to project and company to company. What is unimportant to one company may be essential to another. Next, we have the analyze qualitative and quantitative factors. Qualitative factors do not have a direct effect on the company's bottom line, but are nonetheless crucial to its success. Qualitative factors include the size and surroundings of a community, the local educational system, and the connectivity of the community to nearby markets. Using the above three examples, it is easy to see how qualitative factors influence the site selection process. An automotive R&D center, for instance, requires access to experienced engineers, either locally educated or drawn to the location by other factors. Next, for quantitative factors, on the other hand, it will produce a direct and calculable effect on a company's operations. Among these are labor rates, building costs, logistic costs, utility rates, and taxes. To produce an accurate assessment of the operating costs at each site, these site variable costs have to be determined and projected out for a number of years. The process is laborious and far from science, but if data are correctly gathered and assessed, the results can be highly useful. Doing this may require assistance from experts, such as a certified public accountant, to assess and calculate the taxes and their effects in a company's profitability. Moreover, available buildings should be evaluated by a suitable expert to determine the soundness of the building and the cost of any refurbishments that may be required. Third, we have research competing communities and evaluate data. In most instances, a company and its consultants will request data from potential candidate states and communities, and will also review public and subscription databases to generate a preliminary field of potential sites. Initial visits are made to the sites that are deemed suitable. This early screening may be done by the company or its consultants. Fourth, we have to consider incentives and bonuses. When the field has narrowed to a handful of educate sites, the company usually turns its attention toward incentives. Starting up a new plant represents a huge investment on the part of the business, and a good incentives package can reduce the investment risk and ultimately help the company open a successful and profitable plant, and this is actually beneficial to all parties. It is often said that incentives cannot make a bad site good. They can only make a good site better. Any site chosen by the company must meet the fundamental needs of the business: qualified workforce, proximity to customers and suppliers, transportation, quality of life, and many more. Incentives are the icing, not the cake itself. So, in addition, companies have to consider an incentives package against the overall cost of doing business at a location. One community may offer a generous incentives package, but if taxes, utility rates, and labor costs at that location will be high over the long term, another location with lower overall costs might be preferred, even if its incentive package is weaker. Incentives can be divided into two broad categories, actually. First, is statutory and the second one is the discretionary. Statutory incentives are those that are codified by state or local law and that are made available to all companies meeting the requirements of the law, such as state jobs, tax credit from any company that creates a certain number of jobs annually. Discretionary, on the other hand, are those that involve the discretion of the granting party. Prospects evaluate statutory incentives, but final site negotiations naturally center on discretionary incentives. Discretionary incentives are limited only by available resources, applicable law, and the creativity of the parties involved. A package of incentives may come from several different public sources, including the federal government, state, country, city, public development authorities or development agencies, as well as private sources, including the private utility companies, private development organizations, and even interested individuals. Depending on the site, incentives may include free or reduced cost of land and building, below market rent, build-to-suit projects, cash grants, loan guarantees, infrastructure improvements, site remediation, utility hookups and discounts, property tax reductions, and job training. By this point in the site selection process, the company will have met several times with the finalist communities. It also will have established the beginning of a meaningful relationship with economic development representatives and other local state officials. In addition, each finalist community will have a good sense of what is most essential to the company's success and whether the prospect is a good fit for the community. This is the proper and most natural time to discuss and negotiate a final incentives package. And of course, last but not least, we have to finalize the decision, memorialize the deal. So, all in all, after the finalist communities have put together their best incentives packages, the prospect is in a position to make a final, often agonizing, site decision. When the decision is made, the winning site and the prospect typically memorialize the deal with a written agreement, often called a memorandum of understanding or a development agreement. In the final agreement, the prospect agrees to locate its plant in the winning community and usually agrees to create a certain number of jobs and to make a minimum capital investment in the community. In return, the other parties agreed to provide certain incentives. This final agreement is meant to capture with specificity the offers and commitments of the community made over the course of the site selection process. It also provides a roadmap for delivery or those incentives. During the site selection process, no one wants to talk about the possibility that the project will fail. However, the final agreement will often highlight penalties in the event the prospect does not deliver on its jobs or investment commitments. As a matter of fiscal prudence as well as local politics, a community or state must be able to show that it received good value for incentives offered. From the prospect's standpoint, penalties or clawbacks, as they are sometimes called, are understandable, but should be fair and proportional. In other words, a small miss in the company's jobs or investment goals should not lead to repayment of all the incentives, but rather a proportional amount, if any. With the site selected and the final agreement is signed, the company and the community can work toward the next step in the process, the ribbon cutting.
The low distance method. The low distance method is a mathematical model used to evaluate location based on proximity factors. The objective is to select location that minimizes the total weighted loads moving into and out of the facility. The distance between 2 points is expressed by assigning the points to grid coordinates on a map. Depending on the industry, a load may be shipment from suppliers, shipment between plants or to customers, or it may be customers or employees traveling to and from the facility. The firm seeks to minimize its load distance score generally by choosing a location that ensures loads go short distances. To calculate the load distance score for any potential location, we use the actual distance between any 2 points using the GIS system and simply multiplying the loads flowing to and from the facility by the distance traveled. These loads may be expressed as a number of potential customers needing physical presence for any service facility. Loads may be tons or number of trips per week for a manufacturing facilities. The score is the sum of these low distance products. By selecting a new location based on the low distance scores, customer service is improved or transaction costs reduced. The goal is to find one acceptable facility location that minimizes the score, where the location is defined by its x coordinate and y coordinate, or the longitude and the latitude.
Center of gravity. Center of gravity is a good starting point to evaluate locations in the target area using the low distance method. So it seeks to compute geographic coordinates for potential single new facility. Yung pinaka-kino-consider po sa center of gravity ay yung market, volume of goods shipped, and shipping costs. So why is it beneficial? First, it is simple to compute. Second, it considers existing facilities. And third, it minimizes costs. So ang first step po ay to determine the x and y coordinates of different locations either in the form of the longitude and latitude of the locations or by creating an XY grid. So yung location po rito ay hindi masasabing optimal pero maganda na rin po itong panimula sa pagsukat po ng distance. Pwede naman po na patuloy lang po yung pag-compute dito hanggang sa maabot na po yung pinakamalapit na score sa pagiging optimal. Meron po tayo ditong example. Suppose that your company wants to expand its logistics network and locate a new facility within a network of 3 existing facilities. Giving the following assumptions below, what are the coordinates for the new potential location? So let's assume the following. Si Warehouse 1 po ay mayroong daily outbound goods volume of 2,500 units. Si Warehouse 2 po ay 1,300 units. And si Warehouse 3 po ay 5,000 units. So, and the current coordinates of the existing facilities ay naibigay na rin po. Si Warehouse 1 po ay 200 and then 50. Si Warehouse 2 po ay 300 and then 100. And si Warehouse 3 po ay 100 and 150. Given the assumptions and grid coordinates, we get the following. So, base naman po doon sa grid coordinates na ibinigay kanina, ay meron pong value ng x and y po yung existing facilities. Dahil po rito ay pwede na po makuha yung coordinates ng new potential location. Para po kay x, sa Warehouse 1 po, 200 times 2,500 plus 300 times 1,300 kay Warehouse 2 plus 100 times 5,000 para po kay Warehouse 3. And then, kukunin po natin yung total niya. Kapag nakuha na po natin, i-divide po natin siya sa total naman ng volume po ng tatlong existing facilities. Yung 2,500, 1,300, and yung 5,000. Makukuha po natin yung value ng x as 158. Same lamang po sa pagkuha po ng value ng y. 50 times 2,500 kay Warehouse 1 plus 100 times 1,300 kay Warehouse 2 plus 150 times 5,000 kay Warehouse 3 and then i-divide din po natin siya sa total po na 2,500 plus 1,300 and then 5,000 po. Makukuha po natin yung value ng y ng 114. Pwede na po nating i-plot yung new suggested warehouse coordinates sa ating pong grid. Yung red po, yun po yung coordinates po ng existing facilities natin. And then yung color blue po, nire-represent po nito yung bagong coordinates po ng ating potential location.
What is break-even analysis? Break-even analysis entails the calculation and examination of the margin of safety for an entity based on the revenues collected and the associated cost. In addition, a break-even analysis is a financial tool which helps a company to determine the stage at which the company or new service or product will be profitable. Meaning to say, the break-even analysis lets you determine what you need to sell monthly or annually to cover your cost of doing the business. The break-even point is the point which revenues equal expense, hence both the profit and loss have zero value. More so, the break-even point helps business owners determine when they will begin to turn a profit and assist them with the pricing of their products. So, what's the use of break-even analysis? Using break-even analysis, it can help a manager compare location alternatives on the basis of quantitative factors that can be expressed in terms of total cost. The basic steps for graphic and algebraic solution are as follows. The first one is to determine the variable cost and fixed cost for each site. Remember that variable costs are the portion of the total cost that varies directly with the volume of output, while on the other hand, fixed costs are the portion of the total cost that remains constant regardless of output levels. The second one is to plot the total cost lines, the sum of variable and fixed cost for all the sites on a single graph. Then identify the approximate ranges for which each location has the lowest cost. Then lastly is to solve algebraically for the break-even points over the relevant ranges. So these are the basic steps for graphic and algebraic solutions that is particularly useful when the manager wants to define the ranges over which each alternative is best. To sum it up, break-even analysis is just a situation where an organization is neither making money nor losing money, but all the costs have been covered.
So, GIS tools help visualize customer locations and data, as well as the transportation structure of roads and interstate highways. These capabilities allow the analyst to quickly arrive at a reasonable solution to multiple facility location problems. Okay, since GIS is a computer based application, through the aid of this tool, you can efficiently integrate all significant information regarding the location of your choice into one interactive map. So, in this application, you can supply information regarding population, your existing facilities in that certain area, the travel time required to each facility, and others, and it really does wonders. They can also do necessary calculations for you as well. So, as a manager, let's say, you can assess the overall situation of facilities simultaneously while just sitting in front of your desktop. Thus, this application is time and cost efficient and also saves you from nausea if ever you have from hours of traveling from point A to point B so as to assess your facilities. This also provides you more time to evaluate the situation and think of ways to solve problems if ever bottlenecks to your production systems in that certain area are detected. In addition to that, this application can also help you for deciding if ever your management wishes to build new warehouses or branches because this application can pretty much integrate the information you'd need to further assess the market potential of a certain geographical area, be it through its population density, infrastructures, bodies of water, and etc. etc. A five-step framework is associated with the use of GIS method. First step is to map the data for existing customers and facilities in the GIS. Second step is to visually split the entire operating area into the number of parts or subregions that equal the number of facilities to be located. Third step is to assign a facility location for each region based on the visual density of customer concentration or other factors. Alternately, determine the center of gravity for each part or subregion identified in step 2 as a starting location point for the facility in that subregion. Fourth step is search for the alternate sites around the center of gravity to pick a feasible location that meets management's criteria such as environmental issues, availability to major metropolitan areas, or proximity to highways. Fifth and final step, compute the total distance scores and perform capacity checks before finalizing the locations for each region. So to further elaborate this, let me give you an example. So I got this from an actual GIS application, specifically ArcGIS, which is commonly used now sa western side of the world. The situation here is that the management is trying to find the best locations where they can put up new clinics so more people can get their flu shots. The green circles, as seen in the diagram, represent the population of the area, while the green lines that are interconnecting each circle exhibit the travel path of the people. From here, you can see the visual density of population as well as the area where most people travel to. So you can conclude that the central area or central region has the most density, and that is why the company has existing facilities there. You just can see them clearly as they were concealed by these question marks. On the other hand, the blue boxes with the question marks in it are the candidate locations that the application helped you to narrow down through various computations and other factors that you've embedded in the application. As you can see, there are already green boxes with check marks in it, and these are the locations that are best suited for the new clinics that the management will establish in such area. And all this were facilitated through some series of clicks.
Transportation method. transportation method for location problems is a quantitative approach that can help solve multiple facility location problems. It is used to determine the allocation pattern that minimizes the cost of shipping products from two or more plants or sources of supply to two or more warehouses or destinations. Dito po, yung origin ay nangangahulugan kung saan nag-originate or na-manufacture po yung products, while yung destination naman po ay yung lugar kung saan dadalhin or kung saan po ibebenta yung products na na-manufacture. For solving the transportation problem, the following steps are to be systematically followed. So yung una pong step is obtaining the initial feasible solution. It means identifying the solution that satisfies the requirements of demand and supply. Meron din po tayo ditong methods na kung saan pwede po nating ma-acquire yung initial feasible solution. Ito po yung northwest corner rule, least cost method, and yung Vogel's approximation method. Yun pong northwest corner rule ay method kung saan yung basic variables po ay selected from the extreme left corner. While yung least cost method naman po, ang ibig sabihin naman po dito ay pipiliin po yung pinakamabababa pong cost over po doon sa higher cost cell. So, kung alin po yung may pinakamababa pong cost of transportation, yun po yung pipiliin. And yung Vogel's approximation method, katulad lang po ito ng least cost method. Pero yung pong shipping cost ay tinitake into consideration po into relative sense. Next step po natin is testing the optimality of the initial feasible solution. So once nga po na na-obtain na natin yung feasible solution, kailangan na po nating malaman or ma-check if optimum po ba siya or hindi. So pwede po tayong gumamit ng dalawang methods, yung stepping stone method at yung modified distribution method. Sa stepping stone method po, pwede po natin siyang magamit if ang ginamit natin sa pag-obtain ng feasible solution po ay yung northwest corner, least cost method, or Vogel's approximation method. Thus, the stepping stone method is a procedure for finding the potential of any non-basic variables in terms of the objective function. Modified distribution method naman po is an efficient method of checking the optimality of the initial feasible solution. So, ang final step po natin is to revise the solution until the optimum solution is obtained. So, ang pinaka-common objectives po talaga sa paggamit po ng transportation method ay una, ma-maximize po yung profit sa pag-transport po ng product sa destination. And pangalawa, para po ma-minimize po yung cost of shipping ng products na dadalhin sa destination.